While building a crib for my newborn son, I heard my husband say to his parents, "It's not like the baby's even mine." I sat down on the floor, shaking, and said, "Then you might want to reconsider the $20,000 you just spent on the nursery." His mom screamed, "You promised this wouldn't blow up." I just smiled and called my lawyer. I'm 38F. My husband, soon-to-be ex, I guess, is 42M. I'll call him Landon. We live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I've been a nurse here for almost 15 years. Landon's a civil engineer. We met when I was in nursing school at UNC, grabbing coffee at a little shop near campus called Joe Van Gogh. He asked if he could sit next to me. I said yes, and 3 months later we were living together. It felt easy, like we were meant to be. 11 years later, here I am, 38, 8.5 months pregnant, and suddenly very, very alone. This morning was supposed to be normal. Happy, even. We were putting together the crib in the nursery. Landon had a wrench in his hand, and I was sorting through baby clothes by size on the rug. I remember folding this tiny onesie with cartoon elephants and thinking, this is the last quiet weekend before the baby comes. I should savor it. The nursery's beautiful, soft sage walls, hand-painted mural of a misty forest with a fox and deer. Custom crib, white oak. It smells like fresh paint and new beginnings. His parents, Eleanor and Richard, had gifted us $20,000 to make it perfect. I didn't ask for it. Eleanor insisted. They'll remember their first room forever, she'd said. God, that's a joke now. Anyway, his phone rang. It was on the dresser. He glanced at it, saw the caller, and quickly stepped into the hallway with it. I didn't even think twice at first. I could hear his voice through the open door. But what he said made my blood run cold. He said, "It's not like the baby's even mine." I froze. I stared at the dresser. My heart slammed in my chest like it was trying to escape. I waited, hoping I misheard. But I hadn't. Then, from the phone, I heard his mother's voice. Calm. Cold. "You promised this wouldn't blow up. You told us she didn't suspect anything." He sighed. "She doesn't. I'm just saying, I don't know why we're spending so much on something that's not even really ours. I'm trying, okay?" I sat down. Hard. On the floor, right next to the folded baby clothes. My ears were ringing. My whole body felt hollow. The next part, it's a blur. He came back and like nothing happened. He crouched near the crib, reached for a screw. I looked at him and said, quiet and steady, "Then you might want to reconsider the $20,000 you just spent on the nursery." The air in the room changed. He froze, eyes wide, like a deer who hears the snap of a twig in the woods, but hasn't seen the hunter yet. Then we both heard it. From the hallway, Eleanor yelled, "You promised this wouldn't blow up." And just like that, the entire illusion cracked. They all knew. They'd all known. And I didn't. Let me explain something important. We used a sperm donor. It wasn't a secret. Landon has been infertile since a motorcycle accident in his 20s. When we started trying to have kids, we did everything: timed intercourse, IUI, multiple IVF rounds. We tried with his frozen sperm. Twice. Both times failed. The third round, we switched to donor sperm. It was his idea, even. "I just want to see you holding our baby," he said, hugging me after the second failed embryo transfer. However we get there, we picked the donor together. We joked about who looked most like him. We went to counseling together to process the emotions. He came to every appointment. He kissed my belly at night. He put headphones on it and played jazz. When I found out I was pregnant, he cried harder than I did. We were a team. Or so I thought. After he heard what I said, after I called him out, he started stammering. "Wait. That's not what I meant." I stood up. My legs barely held me. "You said it's not yours." "To your mother," I said. "What did you mean then?" He looked cornered. I was just venting. "She was pressuring me." I said something stupid. "You said it like you believe it. Like you've believed it for a while." Then Eleanor stormed in. "She said that?" "She heard you." Landon didn't answer. I looked right at her. "You've known this whole time that he was pretending," I said. "You've all been pretending." Her lips tightened. He said he was okay with it. I told him, if he wasn't, he needed to speak up before the baby came. And instead, you lied to me. Both of you. I walked out of the nursery, down the hall, into the living room. Picked up my purse, grabbed my phone, dialed my lawyer. Landon was behind me, panicking. "Please, can we talk? Don't do anything drastic." I turned to him. You committed fraud, I said. You betrayed me while I was carrying this child. I'm not doing anything drastic. I'm protecting myself. He looked like I slapped him. 6 hours later, I'm at my sister's house in Durham. Her name's Marisol. She's older by 2 years, has 2 teenagers, and she's the reason I didn't give up after our first miscarriage. When I told her what happened, she didn't say anything. She just hugged me, held me like I was 6 years old again. After a while, she whispered, "We're getting you out of this clean. He doesn't deserve to be a father." And that's when I broke. Because I had believed, truly believed, he would be the best father. Patient, loving, goofy. I pictured him doing middle-of-the-night bottle runs, reading bedtime stories, dancing in the kitchen with a toddler in his arms. Now, that dream feels like a hallucination. It got worse. My lawyer, Janine, who's more pit bull than person, started pulling up account info. We'd always shared accounts, but Landon handled most of the bills. Turns out, that gift his parents gave us for the nursery? Not from them. He opened a line of credit. In my name. 3 months ago. Without my knowledge or consent. Janine nearly threw her laptop. "That's identity fraud," she said. "He's screwed." I confronted him. I had to go back to the house for a few things. He was waiting on the porch. "I didn't mean to lie," he said. I knew you wouldn't agree to it, and I wanted you to have your dream nursery. You've been through so much." "You lied to me," I said. "While I was growing a child. One we planned for. One you agreed to raise." His eyes were red. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "I feel like I've been pretending for months," he said. "Pretending I'm okay. Pretending this baby doesn't remind me every second that I failed you." And for a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "I didn't need perfect," I said. "I needed honesty." He cried. I didn't. Then the final knife came. Janine found messages between him and Eleanor. Dozens. Maybe more. She has them all archived now. One said, "If you're not the father and you didn't sign anything legal, you can walk away. She'll be too ashamed to fight it." His reply, "I don't know. I think she suspects something." That was dated 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, we were assembling the stroller and laughing about how ugly baby shoes are. 3 weeks ago, I told him I'd never felt more in love. 3 weeks ago, he was planning how to leave me. And that's where I'm at, Reddit. I'm 38. I'm 8.5 months pregnant. I'm filing for divorce. Filing for fraud. Preparing for a custody fight with a man who isn't biologically tied to my baby, but who might fight me anyway, out of spite or guilt or God knows what else. I don't know how this ends. But I know this. I'm not staying with someone who treats parenthood like a performance or love like a transaction. I'll be okay. Eventually. The days after I left our home blurred into a strange kind of waiting room in my life. Every hour felt like it dragged and sprinted at the same time. My body was tired. My feet were swollen. My back ached. But none of it compared to the emotional exhaustion of pretending to be calm while I was internally spiraling. Marisol made space for me in her guest room. She even turned the kids' old playroom into a makeshift nursery, just a bassinet, changing table, and some secondhand clothes she picked up from Facebook Marketplace. Her kids, Tori and Nico, were curious, gentle. Tori, she's 16, even offered to paint a forest mural on the wall to match the one I'd left behind. I cried in the laundry room after she said that. Quietly, so no one would hear. Janine moved fast. Within 48 hours, she'd filed for emergency protective orders, divorce proceedings, and started paperwork on identity theft. I had to sign so many documents that my hand cramped, but I kept going. It felt good to do something, even if I didn't feel strong. Landon tried calling. Multiple times. He left voicemails. One said, "You're making this bigger than it has to be." Another, "You're punishing me for something you agreed to." We both knew it wasn't really mine. But then he sent a text that shook me. "I want shared custody. He's still going to be my son." I showed it to Janine. She just raised her eyebrows. Interesting, coming from a man who said the baby wasn't his a week ago. "Can he get custody?" I asked. My voice cracked. She sighed. "He signed the birth plan. He's on all the documentation. You weren't legally married to the donor. He might try for it. But given what we have on him, financial fraud, emotional misconduct, coercion. We'll fight it. And we'll win." But that didn't stop the cold dread crawling up my spine. He wanted the baby. Or at least he wanted to claim him. Whether it was guilt or pride, I wasn't sure. But the fact that he could flip from disowning him to demanding rights over him in a matter of days chilled me. 3 days before my due date, there was a knock at Mary Saul's door. I was upstairs, lying on the bed with a heating pad under my belly, half watching a rerun of Frasier when I heard voices. Low at first, then louder. I sat up. "Landon, you need to leave," Mary Saul said firmly. "She doesn't want to talk to you." "I just want 5 minutes. That's it. I have something for her. She has a lawyer. You can talk to her." I heard footsteps on the stairs. "Please, just let me talk to her." My bedroom door opened, and there he was. He looked awful, unshaven, wrinkled shirt, eyes puffy. "I told you not to come here," I said. I know. I'm sorry, but I had to see you. Just for a minute." He held out a small, beat-up cardboard box. "What is that?" He placed it on the dresser and opened it. Inside were a pair of tiny baby shoes. Blue. Worn leather. Landon's name was written on the soles in faded ink. "They were mine," he said. "My mom kept them. I wanted our son to have them." I stared at them, then at him. "Our son," I said. "The one you told your mother wasn't even yours?" "I didn't mean it like that," he said quickly. I was frustrated, confused. "You were building a crib while saying the baby wasn't yours. Do you understand how that broke me?" His mouth opened, then closed. He had no answer. "I'm not keeping you from him," I said. "If down the line, you genuinely want to be involved, and if a court agrees, it'll be on my terms. Not yours. But you will not barge into my life and start rewriting history just because you feel bad." His eyes welled. "I loved you. I love you. Then you should have acted like it." I walked to the door. "I need to rest," I said. "Please don't come here again without going through Janine." He left. Slowly, like gravity was heavier on him, and I collapsed onto the bed, staring at those baby shoes. The contractions started the next night. At first, I didn't even realize. Just thought it was more of the usual third trimester nonsense. But around 3 a.m., I felt the first real one. The kind that makes your spine lock up and your lungs pause. Mary Saul drove me to UNC Medical Center. I was checked in by 4 a.m. Nurses swarmed, paperwork blurred. I was 6 centimeters dilated. They told me it'd be soon. I asked Mary Saul to stay. She did. Landon texted around 6 a.m. "Are you in labor?" I heard from Eleanor. I ignored it. He texted again. "Please tell me what hospital. I want to be there." I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to be cruel, but because I needed peace. After everything he'd done, everything he'd said, I needed to do this surrounded by people who truly supported me. My son was born just before 10 a.m. He came into the world screaming and angry and perfect. 6 pounds, 11 ounces. Full head of dark hair. Little birthmark on his left shoulder. When they laid him on my chest, I sobbed so hard I couldn't speak. All the pain, all the lies, all the grief. It didn't matter anymore. He was mine. I named him Elias James. James, after my grandfather. Elias, because it sounded like strength and softness rolled into one. A nurse came in a few hours later and told me Landon was in the lobby. He'd been asking for me. I asked her to tell him I was resting and not accepting visitors. He left. But I knew it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Landon's attorney. He was filing for joint custody. No surprise. But here's the kicker. He was also trying to block me from relocating outside of Chapel Hill, claiming it would be harmful to his paternal relationship. I laughed when I read that. The man who said, "It's not like the baby's even mine," now wanted to prevent me from leaving because he suddenly discovered his fatherly instincts? Janine was ready. She'd already gathered all the evidence, the voicemail, the text messages, the financial records, and most importantly, the conversation he had with Eleanor that I recorded from that nursery hallway. She smiled when I handed her the USB. "Let's see how fatherly he looks to a judge after this," she said. And that's where things stand now. I'm home. Well, at Mary Saul's. The nursery here is simple, but Elias doesn't know the difference. He just knows love, warm arms, milk, sleep. Landon hasn't seen him. Not yet. The court date is in a few weeks. I don't know what he's going to try, or what Eleanor is planning behind the scenes. But I know this. I will fight for my son with everything I have. Not out of spite, but out of love. And I will never let anyone make him feel like he's not wanted. Not enough. Not real. Because he's real. He's mine. The days after Elias was born were a strange mixture of exhaustion and adrenaline. I was waking up every 90 minutes to feed him, barely functioning, but somehow more alert than I'd ever been. The second his little face scrunched up, I was wide awake, rocking him, whispering to him, humming lullabies I didn't even know I remembered from my childhood. But then the quiet moments would fade, and I'd be reminded that I was living under legal fire. Landon's lawyer, some smooth-talking guy named Craig Whitaker, was quick. Too quick. Within a week of Elias's birth, he had already filed a petition for temporary custody rights and visitation. They wanted 2 nights a week. Overnight. Elias was 11 days old. I sat across from Janine in her office, rocking him in his little carrier. She looked over the papers and muttered, "Unbelievable. They think I'm going to hand over an 11-day-old baby to a man who committed fraud and said he wanted to walk away?" Janine glanced at me, her face hard. "They're testing your threshold. They're hoping you'll react emotionally, make a mistake, give them something to use." "I haven't done anything wrong," I said, but even as I said it, I felt my jaw clench. "Doesn't matter," she said. "We'll file a response and request an emergency hearing. With the evidence we have, it's in your favor, but I want you to be ready." "For what?" "For Eleanor." That name again. That woman who'd stood in my hallway, arms crossed, as I found out my world was a lie. What does she have to do with it? Janine raised an eyebrow. "She's funding everything. Landon doesn't have that kind of money, especially with the credit line. And she's making noise in the background. Pulling strings. I've seen this before." I sat back. My mind spun. "She's trying to take him from me. She's trying to get him under her roof," Janine said flatly. "Through Landon." I held Elias tighter. He stirred in his sleep. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about power. Control. And I was done giving anyone either of those things. I had my first post-birth OB appointment 3 days later. Marisol drove me and waited outside with Elias in the car because I didn't want him in the germy waiting room. I came out of the building tired, aching, and emotionally drained, but I froze as I reached the car. Landon was there, standing at the side window, peering in. Marisol had just stepped out to grab a bottle from the back seat. "What the hell are you doing?" I barked. He jumped. "I just wanted to see him," he said, voice low. "He's my son. You don't get to just show up. You go through my lawyer. That's it." "He's right there," Landon said. "I just wanted to look at him." "That's not a crime." Marisol stepped between us. "Back away, Landon." "Now. I'm not some danger," he snapped. "You are to her peace of mind," she replied. "Leave. Now." He walked off after that, but not before glancing back at Elias and whispering, "He looks like me." He didn't. Not even a little. And maybe that was part of the reason he couldn't let this go. A few days later, Janine got a court date. The temporary custody hearing would be in 2 weeks. Landon's lawyer filed another statement, this time including declarations from Eleanor and Richard. They described me as emotionally unstable, vindictive, and unwilling to foster a relationship between father and child. It was all smoke. But smoke looks like fire to a judge who doesn't know you. I cried on Marisol's couch after reading those declarations. They're trying to paint me as irrational. Like I just ran off in some hormonal rage. "You're not going to lose your son," Marisol said. "I know, but I hate that I have to prove I'm a fit mother. After everything. After what he did. Let them throw every stone they have," she said. "You're building a wall." The day of the hearing, I wore a soft blue blouse and black slacks. I didn't want to look flashy. I wanted to look calm, in control. Janine prepped me before we walked in. "Don't let them provoke you. They're going to try. But we're not here to win hearts, we're here to show the law." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Intimate. Claustrophobic, even. Landon sat at the other table, flanked by Craig and Eleanor. Of course. She looked smug. Polished. Like she was walking into a country club luncheon, not a legal hearing to seize control of her grandson. Landon looked tired. Like he hadn't been sleeping again. The judge, an older black woman named Judge Harrell, reviewed the files for a few long, silent minutes before looking up. Janine stood first. Presented the credit line fraud. The audio recording of Landon saying, "It's not even my baby." The text messages. The secret messages to Eleanor. She spoke with calm authority. Not a single wasted word. When it was Craig's turn, he leaned into charm. "Your Honor, my client is a devoted husband and would-be father who was overwhelmed by the emotional toll of infertility. He said things he didn't mean out of fear, out of grief. He loves this child, and he deserves a chance to be a part of his life." Eleanor submitted a statement that described me as possessive and erratic. She even claimed I manipulated Landon into agreeing to a donor. I nearly laughed out loud. Janine handed up our rebuttal, signed consents from the fertility clinic, emails between me and Landon where we discussed donors, and therapy notes showing his full support. Eleanor's face dropped when those were read aloud. Judge Harrell was silent for a long time. Then she looked up. To be clear, this hearing is for temporary custody and visitation only. But what I've seen gives me serious pause. She looked straight at Landon. You said this child wasn't yours. Then you changed your mind. Then you allowed your mother to orchestrate legal actions. Inconsistency is not parenthood. Landon opened his mouth. She raised a hand. Sir, be quiet. Then she looked at me. Ms. Ramirez, do you feel that supervised visitation would be safe for you and the child? I don't feel comfortable with anything right now. But if it's supervised and through a center, I'd consider it. Eventually. She nodded. Visitation is denied at this time. This child is 2 weeks old. The father has expressed doubt over paternity, created financial hardship, and has not provided stable emotional support. We will revisit this in 60 days. Landon slumped. Eleanor looked like she was about to explode. Craig muttered something to him under his breath. But I sat still, calm, because I'd just won the first battle. And I knew more were coming. Back at Mary Saul's, Elias slept on my chest while we watched a storm roll through the trees outside. She poured us glasses of tea, her face finally relaxed for the first time in days. You did good today, she said. I smiled. But I didn't feel done. Not even close. A few weeks after the hearing, things got quiet. Suspiciously quiet. Landon stopped texting. Eleanor stopped emailing. Even Craig, their lawyer, went radio silent. I wasn't sure if they were regrouping or giving up. I hoped for the latter but prepared for the former. Meanwhile, Elias was growing. He started holding his head up, tracking movement with his eyes. His cries became more expressive, less newborn wailing and more, I am displeased with your tardiness, peasant royal baby squawks. Every milestone felt like a defiant middle finger to all the chaos. Look at us. We're doing just fine. Then, about a month and a half later, Janine called me one morning while I was burping Elias. You sitting down? She asked. Why? I just got a copy of a new motion Craig filed yesterday, trying to dispute your sole legal custody and offer proof that Landon is the true parent by intention. I blinked. Are you kidding me? Oh no. And he's attaching letters from Eleanor, again. This time, she's alleging medical neglect because you didn't immediately put Elias on their private health insurance. I burst out laughing. I'm on Medicaid. It covers everything. They offered their plan and I said no because it would have required naming Landon as primary guardian. She's trying to play the long game. Paint you as incompetent. Set up grounds for a custody reversal. My laughter faded. Janine, how do we stop this? I want it over. For good. There was a pause. Then she said, we dig into the finances. Eleanor's been funding the circus. Let's find out what she's hiding. Turns out, Eleanor had some skeletons. Janine's PI dug into her business ventures and personal accounts. Within 2 weeks, she uncovered evidence that Eleanor had paid off a fertility clinic nurse under the table 2 years ago. That nurse? The one who handled our file. The PI got statements from a former employee who overheard conversations between Eleanor and the nurse, discussing securing backup info just in case she turns this on him. What did that mean? Apparently, Eleanor had tried to get unauthorized access to our IVF donor records. She wanted proof the donor had undesirable traits to make a legal argument for unfit parenting. It didn't work. But the attempt? That was enough. We had emails, testimony, bank transfers. Janine smiled like a wolf when I brought her the file. Game over. We filed a countermotion to terminate Landon's parental claims under a bad faith exception clause. Rare, but legally supported if someone can prove intent to defraud, destabilize, or manipulate parental rights. We included the fraudulently opened line of credit audio of Landon denying paternity Eleanor's emails advising him to walk away. Evidence of the PI's investigation into the unauthorized access attempt testimony from the fertility clinic's legal team confirming Eleanor had tried to breach their systems, and the cherry on top, Janine filed a civil suit for damages, not just for the emotional trauma and financial harm, but also on behalf of Elias, whose legal paternity had been used like a pawn in a family power game. That got their attention. At the next hearing, Craig looked tired. He tried to stall. requested more time, asked for continuances. The judge, bless her, was having none of it. This child has been used as a tool of leverage by parties claiming to act in his best interest, Judge Harrell said, her voice sharp as glass. I will not tolerate this courtroom becoming a battlefield for manipulative behavior. She granted me full legal and physical custody. Indefinitely. She ruled that Landon's prior claims were made in bad faith. He was stripped of any current and future claim to parental rights unless I voluntarily reopen the case, which the court strongly advised against. Landon slumped in his seat. Eleanor looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. But the best part? The judge ordered Eleanor to pay my legal fees and restitution for the fraudulent credit line her son opened under her direction. She also referred the attempted donor record breach to the state licensing board. That meant Eleanor could face professional penalties. Her legacy? Tainted. As we walked out of the courtroom, Landon came up behind me. I turned, holding Elias in my arms. He looked at the baby, really looked at him for the first time in months. He really is beautiful, he whispered. I didn't answer. He would have loved me, he said, voice cracking. No, I said, calm and steady. He deserves love. Not guilt. Not confusion. Real love. You don't know how to give that. He didn't argue. I turned away, and that was the last time I saw him. A year later, Elias turned 1. He took his first steps in the living room of the little townhome I bought with the settlement money and the damages awarded. The same living room where Marisol helped me hang fairy lights for his birthday. The same room where we danced to James Taylor, barefoot, Elias giggling on my hip. I work less now. Just a few shifts a week. I spend more time with Elias, learning his world, hearing his first words, watching him become a person. Sometimes people ask if I'm angry. I'm not. I'm grateful. Because I got out before the damage got permanent. Because I found my spine when I thought I had none left. Because my son will never grow up wondering if he's real or wanted. He'll never have to question that. He's wanted. He's real. And he's free. Just like me.